This episode was stupid, terrible, and this godforsaken season can't end soon enough. Hit the intro. Episode 19, A Secret Kept from All the Rest, begins with Tommy Elliott in full-blown hush mode killing a bunch of people in a library and kidnapping some old man for Alice. Because that's just what Tommy does now. They have co-opted this major Batman villain who could be really complex, interesting, and threatening if he were in the hands of writers who actually cared enough to, try. And in the hands of these writers, Hush has been instantly reduced to two things: a generic crazy man thug, and Alice's 2-bit lackey. Look, I admit I don't know a lot about Hush from the comics, but I know he should be a bigger deal than this. But we can't have that because he's a Batman villain, and by legitimizing him, we legitimize Batman. And that's a big no-no as far as these writers are concerned. Because while they don't care enough to try, what they do care about is dragging Batman down as low as they possibly can, which involves not only making his villains look like an absolute joke, it also applies to the Bat computer, as we'll find out in a few minutes. Nothing with the Bat name attached to it is safe from these people. God help them. Cut to Kate, who has tracked Regan down and kicks her door in, which is super easy for someone who weighs 90 pounds soaking wet like Kate does. Regan immediately spills the beans about giving the journal to her sister Magpie, claims that Magpie is in the wind and she has no idea where to find her, and Kate doesn't press the issue and just takes her at her word. Because Regan's proven herself to be so incredibly trustworthy. Then we don't see or hear about Regan for the rest of the episode, so I'm assuming Kate just let her go, and I guess technically she had to in this case because Regan didn't commit any crimes that Kate can prove, but still, there's a long-standing pattern of behavior here, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't take every opportunity to point out why Kate is just awful. Also, Regan mentions that Julia already had a chat with her and put a knife to her throat. Kate has done much worse for much less, so you'd think she'd be fine with this, but no. No. There's only one woman in this town who can put people's lives in danger with no respect for the law whatsoever while pretending to be God's gift to crime fighting, and that ain't you limey bitch! Cut to Arkham, where Alice, Mouse, and Tommy have that librarian, professor, doctor guy strapped into the shock treatment chair. Alice wants him to translate Lucius Fox's journal, and when he can't do that, they fry his brain and kill him. Okay, I have several questions about this. I'm assuming they smuggled this man into Arkham through the sewer tunnels. Okay, fine. But how the hell are they doing all this in Arkham without getting noticed? They spend an awful lot of time in this room using the chair, and they're not exactly being discreet about it. How has no one on the staff come to check on all the noise they're making or use the room themselves? For that matter, Mouse is the only one of these three who has a disguise, while Alice and Tommy, who's wrapped up like the Invisible Man lest we forget, not exactly inconspicuous, just seem to walk around Arkham all willy-nilly right now. And not one f***ing person on the entire Arkham staff has noticed that two of their most infamous and dangerous prisoners have been missing for days, if not weeks. Then there's Mouse's disguise. That doctor he's impersonating appeared to be married, so is Mouse just going home at night to play house with the wife? And if he is, why on God's green earth has not a single doctor or security guard or janitor or whatever noticed that Mouse has disappeared? I mean, come on, writers, this is as basic as it gets. You can't just ignore shit like this and pretend it doesn't matter. But that won't stop you from trying, will it? F*** you. So Alice wants to bring Luke in to translate the journal. Mouse thinks that's too dangerous and could screw up their cushy gig of hot showers and 3 meals a day, which seems to suggest that Mouse has been staying at Arkham after all. So does the doctor's wife just not notice that her husband hasn't been home in weeks? What the hell is going on? Which one is it, writers? Either Mouse is going to the doctor's home at night or he's been staying at Arkham. Either way, you've got a plot hole here big enough to fit every viewer this show has lost since it started. Do you know how big that is? Pretty big. Anyway, Alice is getting a little impatient with Mouse. That relationship is starting to crumble, and if it gets Mouse off my TV faster, that's just fine with me. So, sure, let's go more in this direction. Why the hell not? Cut to Crow's HQ, where Kate confronts Julia about putting a knife to Regan's throat before she had a chance to. Julia's excuse seems pretty reasonable, all things considered, and it makes sense why she wouldn't tell Regan who she is, because that could be traced back to Kate. Not that Kate gives a shit about verifying cover stories, of course. And because Kate always has to be right about everything, she instantly becomes very suspicious of Julia, even though the resident smart person Luke trusts her. Because Luke is a man, and therefore only allowed to be smart when the plot needs him to be. Then Jacob briefs the Crows that there's been a new kidnapping, and I'm a little annoyed about this part. I had a big rant I was going to go on here, because the first time I watched it, I thought Jacob said that the kidnappee was a Crows agent who was working undercover at the NSA. But I was double-checking things before I sat down to record tonight, and I realized that what he actually said was that this man is a Crows client who works as an undercover NSA agent, which is slightly less nonsensical, but still kind of baffling. What would an NSA agent need a private security firm for? You would think the NSA would have that stuff handled, wouldn't they? Who the hell even knows anymore? So because Kate is a massive bitch and Luke isn't incredibly quick to mistrust a woman he's known since they were kids, Kate pretty much kicks him out. She is essentially blaming everyone she possibly can for losing the journal except for the one person who's actually responsible for that. I mean, for crying out loud, at this stage of the game, getting Kate to take accountability for one of her mistakes should be like shooting fish in a barrel. There's so damn many it's impossible to miss. But at no point in this episode does Kate ever apologize, admit that she f***ed up, or even acknowledge that losing the journal was her fault to begin with, because this would require humility, self-awareness, helpful things like that, which are completely foreign to these writers as it turns out. Case in point, Kate and Mary figure out that the dead doctor had a pacemaker that they can backtrack to determine where he was before he died, which neither the police nor the Crows ever think of. Imagine that. Except Kate doesn't know how to do this and refuses to call Luke back to do it because she is a spiteful piece of human trash. For the record, multiple people have already been kidnapped and murdered, and tracking that pacemaker is their only lead. But Kate won't call Luke because her pride is more important than saving lives. And someone at the network renewed this for a second season. Wow. So Alice and Mouse have the NSA guy in the shock treatment chair. They kill him. They've been going after codebreakers to translate the journal, and all the codebreakers in Gotham are on lockdown now, so they might be SOL. But Alice has an idea. Cut to Tommy kidnapping Parker, that lesbian teenage hacker that committed credit card fraud, extortion, and something like 400 plus counts of attempted murder, who Kate let off the hook scot-free because gay people can't be criminals. Yeah, this is Alice's plan. Alice, I'm normally very quick to point out that you are the one and only bright spot on this abortion of television. Please don't make me reconsider that. So then, instead of calling the police, Parker's girlfriend immediately calls Kate for help because that's who Parker was screaming for when they got disconnected. Yeah, call a real estate mogul to save your boo from kidnapping instead of the fucking cops. That makes all the sense in the world. I'm sure the girlfriend didn't question this at all. Then, even though Kate and Mary don't have the computer guy manning the computer, they are somehow still able to work out exactly where Tommy's van is. Kate goes after him, leaving Mary to man the computers, and even though Mary has no clue what she's doing to the point of shutting the computers down and being unable to turn them back on again, she's also able to give Kate all the directions she needs to intercept Tommy's van, so no harm, no foul. So, if I'm interpreting this correctly, the writers seem to want the women to need Luke's help, but then they succeed despite not having Luke's help, so him being there didn't matter, which renders the whole thing meaningless. The whole point of doing a story like this in the first place is for Kate to struggle without Luke, so she realizes how important he is to this operation. But when she gets all her shit done whether he's there or not, You defeat the whole fucking purpose! And the writers will try to get from point A to point C at the end of this episode regardless, but they think they can do it while skipping over that pesky point B entirely. This is, of course, utter horseshit, but at the rate they've been going, I'm frankly a little surprised that they didn't just take the opportunity to retcon Luke out of existence altogether. I mean, be honest. If they had done that, would it have shocked you at all? Especially considering that they're literally about to swap Luke out for a gender-bent super gay and thus far superior version? Because the only thing I'm shocked about is that they didn't do this a lot sooner. So Kate takes out the van with the Batcycle, defeats Tommy so easily it's downright silly, and saves Parker. Tommy then commandeers a different car and escapes, and Kate doesn't even try to chase after him. She just stands there like a jackass and lets him go, because that's just what she does. Then Kate lets this teenage felon into the Batcave, and she is, for all intents and purposes, the new and improved Luke for the rest of the episode. So improved, in fact, that she has to point out multiple times how old and more out of date than a sundial the Batcomputer is. Because I guess Luke is such a useless idiot that he never bothered to upgrade the Batcave systems in the last 5 years, even when a new crime fighter took over the damn place. Man, it's a good thing that this super gay lesbian who loves to science is here to point out how inferior and incompetent Luke is. If she wasn't, then the audience might start to think that Luke actually mattered or something. Whew. We really dodged a bullet there, didn't we? So since Batwoman stopped Tommy from making off with new Luke, Alice wants to revisit the original plan and kidnap Luke Classic. Meanwhile, Luke Classic remembers that he's not allowed to have a spine this week, decides that Kate was right about Julia after all, off-screen, mind you, and then has a conversation with Julia that goes something along the lines of, "Your cover story is a farce, I was wrong to trust you, Kate is smart, I'm very stupid, but hey, at least it's not raining." Then Tommy shows up from out of nowhere and knifes Luke in the back. Nah, I'm just kidding. That actually would have been funny. He just takes them both hostage at gunpoint. And what's really aggravating about this scene is that a few minutes earlier, Luke got a phone call from Kate, and we're meant to think that Kate was actually going to apologize for treating Luke like garbage, but that was really just Mouse pretending to be Kate to find out where Luke is. Then the real Kate calls him, but the call is interrupted when Tommy shows up. So it's like the writers are just dangling that apology in front of us like a carrot, and just when it's almost within our grasp, they yank it away. Every single fucking time. Cut to Crow's HQ, where Sophie is still being passive-aggressive with her boss about defending Batwoman while also not wanting to fight about it, but Jacob doesn't want to sit around to find out which masked freak is going to get more people killed. Jacob, buddy, what show have you been watching? Batwoman has probably gotten more people killed than the fucking Manson family. Can you even imagine how many deaths could have been prevented if Batwoman had just captured Alice the first time she'd had a chance to? And that's not even counting all the other ruthless criminals that she could have captured but didn't. There's no photo finish necessary, man. Pin the blue ribbon on Kate's chest, anoint her as history's greatest monster, and call it a day. Back at Arkham, Alice wants Luke to translate the journal or she'll use the shock treatment chair to fry Julia like bacon. Funny thing though, they run some voltage through Julia anyway for funsies, and even though said electric chair killed those two men very quickly earlier, Julia might as well be Marv from Sin City for all she's bothered by it. Lest we forget, this is the show where all women are indestructible, so we know from the jump that Julia is in no danger here whatsoever. But Luke certainly is. It's just a shame that the episode has been so busy showing us how unimportant and easily replaceable Luke is to do anything remotely interesting with that predicament. Exhibit A. We then cut away from the scene of Kate and Mary being mildly concerned that they can't get Luke on the phone, so Kate can have a scene with Sophie so transparently designed to pander to Tumblr shipper fangirls that they literally have Mary and Parker watching these two have sexual tension on the security camera in rapt fascination while they dish about Kate's love life. Because the Kate-Sophie-Julia love triangle was more urgent than the subplot about whether Luke lives or dies. Tell her you love her! Tell her you love her! Tell her you love her! F*** off. I have no idea how much money the actor who plays Luke makes working on this series, but the price he paid for his dignity was so goddamn high, he wouldn't break even if they went 10 f***ing seasons. Then the bad guys leave Luke and Julia alone in this room. Literally anyone on the Arkham staff could just walk in at any time and find them in there. For that matter, Luke could use this opportunity to try to free himself or Julia, but neither of these things happen because the plot doesn't say so. What the plot does say is that Luke feels inadequate, thinks he can't decode the journal because he's not as smart as his genius father, and Julia pretty much having to hold his hand, be his cheerleader, and do just about everything under the sun except decode the fucking journal herself until Luke figures it out. And get this, the key to cracking the code was Luke's own social security number. So super genius Lucius Fox made the key to decoding the secret of how to kill Batman a number that any hacker worth a crap could find in about 5 minutes. Words fail me. Where the hell is Tommy during this scene? Does no one on the Arkham staff notice this guy whose face is wrapped up like a fucking mummy just hanging out in the hallway and say, "Who the hell are you and what are you doing here?" Not that it matters, really. Not content with making Luke seem as worthless as humanly possible, the writers do the same thing with Tommy. Alice tells Mouse that the second they get whatever weapon Lucius wrote about in that journal, they're just gonna kill Tommy and be done with it. Because that's all Hush is to these writers. A brainless, disposable underling. What a waste. You know, maybe it's a good thing that Batman killed the Joker in this universe. Because if the Joker's dead, that means that he can never appear on this show and have his character butchered by these writers like Tommy Elliott has. Huh. How about that? In a weird way, the Joker had the last laugh after all. Kate has new Luke trace the doctor's pacemaker, which she does while being snotty about how much the Batcomputer sucks because it looks older than her mom. Ergo, good enough for Batman, not nearly good enough for teenage lesbian hacker who loves the science. Go f*** yourselves. So while they're busy shitting on Batman yet again, Mary starts rooting around in a box of Lucius Fox's stuff and discovers that Lucius's glasses are actually super high-tech science glasses that can instantly decode the journal. Into a Wikipedia entry, strangely enough. Which she quickly realizes as she watches the glasses decode the other journal. Did I mention there's another journal? No? Well, there is. And the episode just dropped that on us from out of nowhere in an earlier scene, like everyone just knew it was there the whole fucking time, because the writers didn't think ahead and realized too late that Kate was gonna need something to bargain for Luke and Julia's lives with. Guys? Should we do a quick rewrite to fix this plot hole here? Nah, that'd be way too much work. Just throw in a second journal and a magic MacGuffin. No one will give a shit. On the plus side, there are so few given by the writers of this show that I don't think we need to worry about any of these hacks ever reproducing, so there's that. Cut back to Luke and Julia. Luke has finally cracked the code, but the moment he sees that in the journal is the key to killing Batman, he decides that he can never tell anyone what this is. And suddenly I'm wondering, if Lucius Fox's own son had to go through this whole dog and pony show to find out what exactly was in the journal, how the f*** did Tommy know what was in it? Will that ever be explained either? Why do I even ask? So Luke Classic tells Alice that they'll die to keep this secret, but lucky for them, new Luke has scienced a lead that took Batwoman all the way to Arkham, where she beats the shit out of several security guards just doing their jobs. And then she listens in on Arkham's phone calls or radio signals or creates a virtual map of the place or something. It's not really clear. Even though she just said in a previous scene that she knows the room where Alice is torturing her victims, so why she isn't just making a beeline straight for that room is a fucking mystery. So Alice is about to kill Julia, but Batwoman bursts in just in time and wants to trade Luke and Julia for the glasses. Luke tells her not to, but she does it anyway, likely because she's hoping to have sex with Julia some more. But regardless of her reasons, Kate did technically save 2 people here instead of causing more deaths, so congratulations? But don't get excited. Kate momentarily acting like a decent human being was just a fluke. Alice accepts this trade, lets them go, and moments later, Kate is telling Luke to get Julia out of there through the secret sewer tunnels instead of, out the front door, so they could alert security about the dangerous killers that have been running loose in the building right under their noses for God knows how long. But the point ends up being moot because a security guard sees them and raises the alarm. If the episode is to be believed, this is literally the first time a member of the Arkham staff has been down this hallway in weeks. So Mouse is terrified about blowing their cover. He wants Alice to get back to her cell before someone sees her, but she's ready to get the hell out of Dodge. So she tells Tommy to get the van. I guess they got a new van at some point. Like a good little gopher, he does what he's told. And then she flips a Deus Ex Machina switch on the wall that magically opens every cell in Arkham at once. So all the prisoners instantly go apeshit, they start rioting, Alice and Mouse escape in the chaos, then Batwoman walks into a room with dozens of frenzied lunatics and proceeds to just obliterate these assholes one by one. Even when they try to overwhelm Batwoman with sheer force of numbers, they can't hope to match up against her. Eventually, though, she does decide to f*** out of there. But not because the fight is over, certainly not because she can't win a fight against impossible odds, it's because the crows showed up. Mission over, I guess? Back in Bruce's office, Luke tells Kate that she made the wrong call in giving Alice the glasses because of all the people this may put in danger, but she avoids acknowledging this by hugging Luke, telling him that there's no Batwoman without Luke Classic, and she was lost without him. Which, as I pointed out earlier, is a giant load of crap. There's a very simple, logical storytelling formula here that the writers did not follow. Point A, Kate is an arrogant bitch and kicks Luke out. Point B, Kate screws up and desperately struggles to get things done while Luke is gone. Maybe someone gets hurt or killed in the process because Kate didn't have Luke backing her up. She pays a price for not having him there, which makes her realize how much she really needs Luke. Point C, Kate has a new appreciation for Luke, shows humility, admits that she was wrong, apologizes, and welcomes Luke back. That's the story this episode should have been. But the story the writers gave us was, Point A, Kate is an arrogant bitch and kicks Luke out. Point B, Kate has a bit of a tougher time at first, but manages to get everything done anyway with no collateral damage or loss of life, and then quickly replaces Luke with new Luke, who not only steps into Luke's job without missing a beat, but does it while also pointing out how shit Luke's computers are, thus making Luke look inferior to her. Point C, Kate does not apologize, and she says that she was lost without Luke, even though we were shown something entirely different. And the result is that what should have been a humbling experience for Kate and an opportunity for her to acknowledge her mistakes and learn from them like a real f***ing character would, just ends up feeling like a bunch of bullshit. The story doesn't work if Kate doesn't pay a price or go through some kind of hardships after kicking Luke out to make her realize that she made a mistake. And yeah, she wasn't sure how to science at first, but thanks to new Luke, all the tech stuff got done anyway, easy peasy freshly squeezy. And afterward, she's like, Luke Classic, welcome back, buddy! Come here, you, someone needs a hug! But she didn't go on a journey to gain this new appreciation for Luke. It just materialized out of nowhere. She gains that appreciation organically by being forced to realize that she needs Luke. But what the episode showed us is that she doesn't. If this were Storytelling 101, all these writers would get an F. But instead, they're writing a major network television show. Somehow. So new Luke f***s off, but not before telling Kate to fight harder for Sophie, because after watching them on a security camera for 30 seconds, she can really feel the love between them. Even though Kate was hooking up with Regan in the last episode, and with Julia a couple episodes before that, while Sophie was busy flirting with Julia and having a thing with Batwoman for a cup of coffee. Doesn't really seem to me that Kate and Sophie are all that hung up on each other except when the plot says they are. But much like with the Luke situation, what the show tells us and what it shows us are two very different things. Back at Crow's HQ, believe it or not, Julia's arm is slightly numb due to nerve damage. So maybe women are only semi-indestructible this week. Let's see how long the writers keep that going. If she's not 100% healthy by the very next episode, I will be genuinely stunned. Then they kiss, and again it just feels like bullshit. You didn't earn this. They gave each other the me eyes in a couple scenes, but 99% of the stuff showing an actual relationship developing here happened off camera. Then Kate walks in, and Julia tells her the secret that she told Luke Kate could never know about, the secret being that Julia made a deal with the Rifle's boss to stop pursuing Kate if Julia got her the journal. So Julia made a deal with this chick to save Kate's life, even though this makes no sense whatsoever, because the show has stressed to us over and over and over again that the Batsuit puts Kate in perpetual God mode 25/8/366. So why exactly could Kate never know about this? It's a complete bullshit explanation, but at least it's an explanation of some kind, which pathetically puts it way ahead of virtually everything else that made no sense about this episode. What it does not explain, unfortunately, is how Julia was able to get recruited by the Crows without the Crows discovering that she had gone rogue from British intelligence 6 months earlier, when a simple mandatory background check or one single solitary fucking phone call on Jacob's part would have shattered Julia's entire cover story like stale potato chips. And really, I should be a lot more pissed off about that, but we're almost done with this trash fire of an episode, and I just want to get out of here. So Jacob lights up the bat signal, somehow without any of the cops knowing, even though the bat signal is on the roof of the GCPD. Batwoman arrives, he blames her for all the Arkham inmates escaping, so apparently the Crows didn't catch any of them as they left the building. If I'm Jacob, I'm a little more perturbed about that. Then Jacob's like, "You're done. Get out." And Batwoman's like, "No, I don't wanna." Then Jacob says that if he sees her again, it's war. And then he just walks away. There's nothing stopping him from trying to apprehend her right now if he hates her so much. But he doesn't, because the plot doesn't say so. And the episode ends with Alice and Mouse hiding in the sewers. Mouse is pissed off that they lost their cushy digs at Arkham. He was actually happy there, and now he's unhappy. But Alice isn't fussed about that. She's busy reading the journal and tells him to ask Hush where they can get some kryptonite. If any of you people thought these hacks would ramp things up, try a little harder, or try at all to make a better show heading into the season finale next week, I hope you feel like absolute fools. Yes, the current global situation forced them to cut the season short, but so what? We're more than far enough along that they should have been putting their best foot forward by now. Instead, what we got was clumsily executed, incompetently written, and further proof that not only are these writers lazy sacks of shit who have learned absolutely nothing over the 19 episodes we've seen, they have no intention of learning anything in the future either. The Kate-Luke argument was pointless because it hinged on Kate getting some kind of development that we're told happened but never did, and accomplished the exact opposite of what it was supposed to because the writers absolutely refuse to admit when Kate makes a mistake. The writing has more holes in it than a bowl of Cheerios. This Kate-Sophie thing is the worst executed will they won't they on TV bar none. Jacob's hatred of Batwoman just seems to disappear and reappear as the plot requires it. Hush has been reduced to Alice's meathead sidekick, and the only character I give anything even resembling a rat's ass about is hiding in a fucking sewer! But hey, if the writers are very, very lucky, maybe she'll find the show's ratings down there. The CW should be embarrassed for having a show this bad on their network. Batwoman sucks, and it's not finished yet. So tune in next week for the finale, where the biggest tragedy in all this is that the season was prematurely killed by a global pandemic instead of the show's boundless idiocy. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. Ding the bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link down there to be notified about new videos. See you soon, and peace out.